My Jump Jr. here, and as some of you may have realized from the update is that both the launchers got quite a rework to them, where several different changes were made to them to adapt to the fact that they're no longer hidden behind a basic training. So I thought it would be useful to see how exactly things have changed. Luckily for me, I already did a full overview on both these launchers and used them quite extensively before this update, so I have quite a bit of data and good feel of how they both performed previously to this update. So here I look to cover the main areas of these launchers such as blast radius, rocket speed, and accuracy. Starting off of what most of you are probably itching to know is just how much damage was actually reduced on both these launchers, and how exactly this affects their performance against players. In particular, the patch notes detail these changes to simply make these launchers less effective against players, and they basically excelled in this regard. Based purely off my hand testing, they reduced the kill radius of the bazooka by around 50%, and for the Panzerschreck around 60%. For the bazooka, this is actually a fairly small change since it barely had any range to begin with, but it's still definitely noticeable. Okay. Actually, it is downright laughable at times, as nearly point-blank rockets do not even kill players that don't have explosive resistance now. While on the other hand, the Panzerschreck took a massive hit, reducing its kill radius to a similar level or actually even less than the old bazooka, which is downright awful if you ask me. And also, thanks to the Panzerschreck's bad accuracy, hitting this reduced kill radius is very challenging and really inconsistent. So if you choose to use this launcher still, it is a must to use it only in indoors where enemy movement is predictable and restricted. If you use it in any other area, you'll find it wildly inconsistent and very discouraging. But next, if you may recall from my previous launcher overview, Armored reduced the kill radius by about 25% for both launchers, so you may start to wonder just how much Hunker and Armored Division fare against these two launchers now.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
And the answer to this is exceptionally well. With the major patch, the two mentioned explosive resistances now allow the user to survive any splash damage from rockets. This means that the only way they can die at full health from either launcher is by direct impact. However, this isn't to say that close hits won't do anything. In fact, it leaves them extremely hurt and open to being killed by pretty much anything else. But if you're on your own, they'll probably kill you before you're able to do anything else to them. And as per usual, I also include a link to the chart you see on screen in the description below. Next up, the update also did some changes to the speed of the rockets from both launchers to better suit them for their intended uses. To be specific, the bazooka's rocket speed has been increased to allow for easier score streak targeting, while the Panzerschreck was slowed down to discourage anti-score streak use. But while the patch note says this, ironically with my experience with any launcher here, this change isn't too big and really doesn't affect the difficulty of taking down score streaks, but rather the difficulty of using it against players. What I mean by this is that if you had trouble shooting down score streaks before, you'll pretty much still have trouble shooting down score streaks now. But if you're good at it before, after adjusting to some small changes, you'll still be good at using it. The change comes in where with the bazooka, it is way easier to get more accurate shots and direct impacts against players as the rocket travels quite fast for this area. Due to this, I would suggest going for direct impacts now if you want to use the bazooka against players in close to medium range gunfights. On the other hand, the Panzerschreck once again suffers from this change, as the slower rockets make it even more unreliable to hit enemies anything further out than close range. However, if you want rough numbers on these changes, I found the bazooka got around a 20% speed increase, while the Panzer got about a 15% decrease. But please don't take these numbers with too much accuracy, as there is definitely a degree of error in this hand measurement. Lastly, I also decided to throw in some testing on accuracy, if at all it got possibly changed due to the rocket speed changes. And after several tries, there doesn't seem to be any real difference. But of course, this is something that's hard to test, so I could be slightly wrong on this. But on average, the accuracy of both launchers you can expect to be the same when used against players. As for use on score streaks, both launchers still retain the ability to fire straight when aiming towards score streaks, just like it was before. So overall, while I do like some changes like being able to use a launcher without a basic training, I have to disagree with many of the other changes though. First of all, I feel the damage changes made to both launchers were largely unnecessary, as people already had a lot of trouble killing enemies with the both of them. Then now, they are very inconsistent to the point where they're only really good for taking down score streaks. So for me, I used launchers quite a lot throughout World War II, so before the patch, the Panzerschreck was definitely significantly better than the bazooka, but with the Division Overhaul patch now, the tables have definitely turned. Since the effectiveness against players have been significantly reduced, I feel that the bazooka is actually the stronger option now. This is especially since that direct impacts are easier to do, and thus won't leave you to rely on the awful splash damages. So if you found this video useful, feel free to share it around, as every little bit is much appreciated. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and until the next video.